Whether it's art, journaling or mixed media, you've been doing it for years or you're just getting started, I'm pretty sure that you've seen other videos where people talk about adding texture. But what does that actually mean? Well, worry not, because today I'm going to share with you some of my tips and tricks I use in my projects. Try and take out some of the unknown on the shop bought mediums, and also give you some alternative ideas using things around the house. Keep watching. I'm even going to show you my favourite technique where you can make texture like this using some of your crafty stash you may already have. So come join me and let's go have some fun. Hi, Tori here, the Artful Dabbler, and welcome back to my channel. So this video is part 2 in my little mini series of going back to the basics for art journaling and mixed media. In my last video, which I'll pop a link up there, we talked about just breaking that white page, getting something down on paper, start making backgrounds. So this video, it's texture and what it's all about. So to start with, I'm going to go through some of the shop bought mediums that you can get to put decent texture down on the page, and there are a lot of them and everybody has their own version. I've got a few here to show you, but really it ends up being trial and error. You'll find a particular brand that you like. It could well be you end up making your own, but I have. How about this then? I've made an example. Okay, so I know it's not going to be very easy to show you these, but I'll have a try. So this one here, it's a heavy carvable paste, and I don't know if I tip it, can you see how thick this one here is? What that lets you do is you can carve into this, you can take pokey tools, you can scratch into it. If I take the end of something here, now this actually, yeah, see, look, scratch it away, and you see there, you can actually start carving into that. This next one is a Martha Stewart texture effect. Now I particularly like this one. I'm hoping you can see this. It almost looks like very thick granulated sugar. Now I have to admit, I'm not really a sparkly girl, but I like this because I gesso over it and it gives me just the most amazing dimension in my projects. Now the next one, sorry, I'm just going to see if I can dim the light a bit for you. The next one is Pentart fibre paste. Now this one is yummy too. Can you see how there's almost tiny little fibres coming off of it? It is possible to paint this onto your craft mat, let it dry, and you can peel this off and you get almost like a little feathered effect round the edges. There are very tiny fibres in this, but again, it's another kind of texture. Okay, next one is the Pentart modelling paste, and I know these just all look white to you, but it's very smooth. It's not a, it doesn't hold like the thickness of this one. It's a very thin, slightly runnier texture when you're lying it down, but it gives you a beautiful smooth result. Down here I've got the Amsterdam heavy gel medium. Now I have to admit something here. This has been sitting here for quite a while, but not quite 24 hours. And very honestly, it should dry clear. But I've laid it on so thick it hasn't dried yet. Thing to remember with your mediums, if it's got the word gel in it, it will dry clear. If it's got the word paste in it, generally it will dry opaque white. Now obviously that's as long as it's not a coloured gel or a coloured paste. And then obviously if it's a coloured gel, it's going to be a translucent colour and obviously the same goes with the paste. It'll be an opaque version of whatever colour it is on the tube or tub. So yes, apologies with that. I think I'm probably going to be here for another few days before that gets thick enough. But what I wanted to show you was how thick you can actually apply it. And eventually, I mean, you can see it just around the edges. It's going to take forever to dry this. It's gone clear already around the edges, and eventually that whole thing will go clear, like the Liquitex has done here. This is Liquitex gloss gel. So again, can give you texture. And remember, all of these, okay, I've laid them on quite smooth here, but these do hold some form, so you can put them through your stencils. You can throw a blob onto your projects and then chop into it with a spatula, wait for it to slightly dry but not completely, so it's got sort of a skin over the top but it's still soft, and stamp into it. You know, this is how you can build up your texture on your page. This one will give you a really nice gloss look. And again, if you mix your pigments into this, run it through a stencil, you'll get a beautiful translucent colour but with that texture. This is Liquitex and it's the matte version. Now again, because I had a bit of a disaster with the Amsterdam, I laid this very thinly, but you can obviously put it on a lot thicker than this. You just have to wait for it to dry. But that's the matte version. And this is my new favourite thing. This is all-purpose filler from the DIY store. Literally something you fill cracks with. It's cheap and cheerful. It dried so quickly. It's great. Again, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to sand that down if I want to have it smoother than that. It has, when it was wet, it had a very slightly gritty or sandy texture to it, but I could still lay it on smoothly if I wanted to, or leave it all rough. So that's my tip, and it's very light, so you don't have to necessarily go out and buy one of the big named products. You can use that, but like anything, please read directions on the back of tubs and tubes, and if something suggests wearing gloves or using a ventilated room, please do so. Right, so these are just some examples of what you can use. What I'm going to do now is take some of the backgrounds that we made in the last video. Let me just pop this that way. I'll talk about this in a minute. These are some of the prints that we did in my last video, just breaking the page, using the jelly plates, using the things from around the house. These are literally old baby wipes. Now I very rarely use many baby wipes, and when I do, if I can wash them out and reuse them, I do. If they're not washable, I put them into my projects. I sew them into my journals. I'm using up the last few packets. I try as much as possible to stay away from baby wipes. Just my personal choice of preaching. So yes, these are the backgrounds that we did in the last video, and I thought, what better way than to literally show you, when wet, putting these into the start of a project. So I'm going to take that background there. And the other pages I'm going to use by chopping up, cutting up, tearing, and again creating more texture, which brings me on to the things you can use around the home. In my last video we talked about making marks on a bit of paper with things like cardboard. Put a bit of paint on and stamp with it. Well, it's brilliant for texture, absolutely great for texture. Tear it up, the rougher the better. Stick it on, we can gesso over it, put those there. Other things that you can use from around the house. Masking tape. Absolutely fabulous for making texture on a page. Tear a bit off. Give it a crease, squidge it up, do the thing that we all try not to do with masking tape. This time you actually want to do it. Flap it over a little bit, put it on your page, squidge it down, like so, and take another bit. I always like to try and work in threes, it's just more pleasing, or it's odd numbers, it's more pleasing to the eye. There. We'll go fold it backwards and forwards, give it a bit of an accordion shape there. Yeah, I like that. Okie doke. Right, okay, other things you find lying around the house. Got a new pair of shoes lately. Did it come with tissue paper? Tissue paper. This is great. So I'm going to grab some gel medium and stick my tissue paper down. You'll find different gel mediums. Some can be wetter, some can be thicker, and they don't always say that they're heavy bodied. So again, it's going to be a bit of trial and error, but you'll find one that you're happy with. I sort of tend to stick with Liquitex a lot, but that's more so because I don't really have a great deal available over here in Ireland local to me. I don't want anybody in any craft shops in Ireland getting angry with me. I just don't have anything hugely local. So again, gonna tear up some of that. And the thing I like about tissue paper especially is if you're putting it on top of a ready-made background, you're not going to lose any of that vibrancy really through it. So gonna pop just a small bit of that down. I'm going to use a finger, give it a squidge, put that down there, and across there a bit, I think. Now I'm going to give that a scrunch. Because I don't want to put it on too flat, and I want it to dry with it squidged up a little bit. Okay, put it on there like so. Tear into that a little bit. Okay, and then take my paintbrush, and please, with anything like glues, gels, anything, have designated set of brushes really for it. You don't want to be mixing the ones that you do your painting with your medium or glue brushes, because you're always going to end up with a little bit of residue of it stuck in the bristles, and you don't want it to spoil your beautiful pictures. So I'm going to put that on top, to stick that down. And you still keep that translucency in the paper. You can still see your project coming through. Yeah, and you've got a nice bit of texture going on there. I will stick those bits of cardboard down in a second. Right, other things that you can do, well, obvious things like stencils. So I'm going to grab this one. It's the Essential range. It's one of Studio Light's stencils. I love these circles. So let me quickly stick our cardboard down there. Put that there. And that there. And down there. Do. Okay. Remember, whatever you put through your stencil mediums like gels or pastes, I really would advise having either a dish of water with you or even a wet cloth that once you've done it and you've pushed everything through, even if you lie a damp cloth onto your stencil until you're ready at the end of your project to go and give it a good wash in the sink, because you don't want to end up clogging up all the holes and just end up breaking your stencils trying to clean it later once it's dried rock solid on there. So I'm going to take some of my Pentart light modelling paste. Keep watching. I'm going to show you a really cool trick in a little bit using this stuff. But for now, it's just going through a stencil. Take my stencil, and remember, you can go over any of the other textures that you've already popped down. And I think I'm going to, let's have a look. I might take that just coming off the page. In fact, I like that whole bit there. I think I might do the whole bit, half circle and all of that. Let me just pop a little bit of card underneath that. Right. This stuff is so light. It really is. I'm not sponsored by anybody, by the way. It's just, this is one of my favourite mediums. So just gently pop it through your stencil. All the way down. A bit of scrape. Twist it. Pop the back in there. Try not to get it around the edges, otherwise you won't be able to open your pot. Ask me how I know that. Okay. Right, take my stencil off, and we shall put that in my little bowl of water over there. And can you see that? Right, that's lovely. Quite happy with that. Okay, so other things from around the house. Okay, just some twine, and this is great. I love using twine in projects. And again, you can either lay it into your gels, your pastes, your gessos. I tend to use a gel more so. I find gels obviously have a slightly better sort of they're better for gluing things down. And I'm actually going to use, I have a 13 Arts gel medium that I also use quite a bit, so I'm going to bring that out. So I'm going to just take a little bit of that, and I think I'm going to run this down here, just like that. Maybe take a bit onto there as well. And remember that, because it's a gel, that's going to dry clear. So I'm hoping you're going to be able to see this, but I shall bring it up to the camera once it's on if you can't. I'm just going to stick it on and just let it naturally go where it wants to go. I think this is where, you know, if you can, let your art become organic. Don't stress too much about things being bang in the place where you really, really want it to be. Things don't always happen that way. I think sometimes happy accidents can be the best ones. I'm actually thinking, maybe do I want to actually do a big circle up here with that? But, no, I think I'll cut that off there. Right. Okay. So that's my. I'm just going to put a little bit on top of that, and I shall show you. Okay. Now, I know people are looking at this going, oh, but you've got like all cardboard and a bit of string stuck on, and you've already got a background. No, because I'm going to be taking a lot of this, called knocking it back down, with a bit of gesso. I'm going to be gessoing over these bits. You'll still see some of the background coming through. That's why in my last video I was saying do backgrounds, get something on paper. You might end up seeing some of the background once you've finished your project, you might not. You know, as I said, my biggest tip in the last video was try not to think about what the end result's going to be. Otherwise, because you'll sit there and just end up planning it for hours. Just keep doing it. Just keep putting something on there and putting something on there until you get to the point where you suddenly look at it and go, time to stop. Or maybe leave it overnight, come back to it in the morning. Right, now, just going to let that dry for a little bit. And whilst I do that, I promised you my favourite tip. Can you see that? It looks like a wood grain. And it is wafer thin. And the beauty of something like this is, well, firstly, look, I can tear it and I can stick it onto my project. I can die cut this. I could punch it. I could do absolutely anything with this. And I made this. How did I make it? Well, I would very much like to say that it's something that you could make at home. And I am working on trying to work out a recipe for that, but unfortunately haven't yet. But I will let you know if I manage it. It was all done using the Pentart light modelling paste. Now, there is another paste that I know does this same technique, and here we are. It's the Stamperia cream paste. I've done this with both of these. Do you have an old embossing folder that you might not use anymore? Well, time to dig them out, because here I have one of my Sizzix Now actually I do still use this one. So this is just to prove that you can do this technique on your embossing folders and it does not ruin them at all. Give them a wash afterwards, but it doesn't ruin them. And all you do is spread the paste very thinly, but enough to cover over the, now I've got to see if I can get this right the wrong way. It's the debossed part of the folder. So that's the top of my embossing folder, and that's the bit that pushes in. You want the bottom half, so that when we peel this off, this is going to have gone into all the little grooves on the bottom half. And she says, fingers crossed. There we go. And peel this away. And yes, oh, phew. There you go. How about that? And now I can literally do anything with this. I can tear it up, which I'm going to do. I'm going to put that on the project. And again, I can paint over this. You don't even need to necessarily gesso with this, but I'm going to, because I'm going to be gessoing other bits anyway. And I'm going to have a lovely wood texture. And you literally then, that means you can do that with any of your embossing folders. This stuff, I can honestly say, is probably one of my most, other than sort of gel mediums for sticking and stuff, this is probably one of my most used pastes in my craft room. Because if you've got any of those very intricate lacy embossing folders, it will work on that too. I mean, obviously you can use this stuff in molds as well. And it's very, I mean, it literally is, it's light as paper. So that's my secret. Don't tell anybody, because I'll buy it all up and I won't be able to get any more. So I thought I'm going to punch a few of these out. Actually, the other side's not too bad either, but I like I'm going to go for the wood. So I'm going to punch. Okay, and I think, seeing we've got circles there, I think I might just half and half on my, that's still wet, lovely. And let's tear a strip like that, and we'll go, let's have a look, we'll go right about there, I think. And this is sticking down because I've still got the gel medium and some of the paste on there from when I stuck the tape down. Other things you can use around the house, builder's tape. As far as I'm aware, this is what they put over plasterboard to cover up joints, but it is great for sticking on your projects, giving it texture. You can also put pastes through this. Again, very versatile. I'm going to pop a bit on, but I want to talk now about the other meaning of texture. And I'm going to bring in that picture that was in my thumbnail. I did that recently, and I think a lot of the time when we think about texture, it really only is in the physical, got to be able to feel something definition. But it's not. Let me bring in, let me pop that over there for a second. So this is a picture I did recently, and this was using one of the backgrounds that we started in the last video. It just started as splodges from my jelly plate, and I just kept adding and adding and adding more colour, more layers. There's nothing stuck on this page. It's completely flat. It's literally, it's all paint and inks, but that has texture to it. You can see the layers within the actual painting, and that's visual texture. So don't panic if sticking things on isn't your thing, but people keep saying to you, oh, but if you want to do mixed media, you've got to have texture in your projects. You can have whatever you want. For starters, it's your project. But texture doesn't have to be sticking things on, gluing things, putting things through stencils. It could just literally be visual texture. Build your layers up. As I showed you an alternative way in that last video. If you don't have a jelly plate, don't need one. There are other ways of getting all these kind of marks into your projects. It's simple and it's fun. Please keep it fun. All right, even when you're putting texture on, you know, don't be sitting there trying to work out placement, and you know, it's all meant to be fun. Now I quite like that. I have to say I quite like that so far. Other things that you can do to add texture. Have you got a glue gun? Well, use that. You can put that over your project. A few circles, a few wiggly lines, gesso over it. It sticks. You can have it clear. You can also get coloured glue sticks. You know, there are so many things out there that can give you texture. Packaging, polystyrene, you know, polystyrene, you know, the little packaging that you have to come thing, perfect. Break it up, stick it on. You know, there's nothing that you can't use in your project. Scrumpled up bits of newspaper. I just want you to have fun with this, not to get stressed with it. I've showed you stuff that you can get from the shops, and there are hundreds more brands out there. There really are, and these aren't all the ones I certainly have in my craft room, but I just wanted to give you an idea generically of what, you know, when it says extra thick, what it can do, what it says extra chunky, what it can do, whether it's a gloss, whether it's a matte, and again, even the fact that you can use shop bought DIY filler and it will do the job. You know, this it's all a discovery, but it's nothing to be frightened of. Remember, gels dry clear, pastes dry opaque, generally white, unless, as I said, particularly coloured one. But I hope that that's taken a little bit of the fear out of it. It's not something that you need to worry about. I know it can get confusing because a lot of brands can call their products by slightly different names, but they're all basically the same thing. Don't ever be afraid to ask a fellow crafter, whether you're in a Facebook group. Ask me if I know the answer, or if I don't, I can certainly go and find out. Ask me in the comments if there's a product, if you're not sure what it does. Please feel free, you can leave a message in the comments below. I'm more than happy, if I don't know, to go and find out for you, or ask a crafty friend. You know, we all have different things in our craft room. I may well have things that you've not seen before. You may well have something that I've not tried before, and if you do let me know about it down in the comments. I'm always happy to have a dabble at something else. But that's texture. That's what texture is. Texture's just something with a bit of dimension, but also it's a visual texture. So if it's not getting sticky and mucky and stuff, if that's not your thing, that's okay. It doesn't mean that you can't do mixed media or art journaling. Go with visual texture. This is your craft, this is your art, and you do it your way. I just want to take some of the fear out of it for you. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I know, again, it's all very basic, but that's the whole point of it. Sometimes reminding those of us who've been doing it for years to strip it back a bit and go simple. Maybe I've shown you a few things, even if you are a seasoned crafter, that you might not have tried before. And if you're new and just getting started, I hope I've opened a few doors for you, taken the fear out of it a little bit, and I really hope it's inspired you to go out and have a go. What is the worst that can happen? It's a bit of paper. And if you watch the last video, it can always be repurposed if it's really not one that you want to make your main project. So go on, make this year the year you give it a go. So that's it. That's the end of today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any comments or any questions, do leave them down in the comments for me. And if you enjoyed the video, I would so appreciate a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed, why not pop down and do that now? And don't forget to hit the notification button. Don't want you missing out on any of the videos coming up, and I've got some really exciting things coming throughout the year. And to all you that have subscribed, I just want to say a massive thank you for your support. You have no idea how much it's meant to me, and I promise I will do my very best to continue to bring you videos that I hope you are enjoying. So from my arty crafty heart, be good, be kind, be safe, be loved, and I'll see you again soon. Bye all.